I'm Ashton Addison from EventChain for Investmentpitch Media and FinTech News Network. And today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Nicholas Pelecanos, the head of trading at Nem. Nicholas, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, I guess, virtually.
Yeah, well, it's great to connect. I'd love to start the interview by hearing a little bit on your background and how that led to your role at Nem.
Okay, so I got into crypto fairly early on, which I was fortunate to do. I started a trading club in my university, and essentially I modeled that off one of the funds in my city. And we had like a currencies team, a commodities team, an index team, and we split up all the kids and we were all just like going through all of these verticals looking for opportunities. And then one day, one of our guys was like, maybe we should check out cryptos. And we dabbled in Bitcoin a bit, but we never really sort of sunk our teeth into it. So we got into crypto, started like mining ETH, and this is when it was like below $1.
Hmm.
And 2017 came around, and we still had the club going. And I mean, when that happened, we were like one of the only bodies in my town, well, in the city, who really knew anything about it. So
Mm-hmm.
we had all these people coming to our lectures we were hosting, and out of that I started a consultancy. I was advising on primary and secondary market transactions. Nem Ventures happened to be one of my clients. And I was talking to those guys a lot. They were telling me they were doing these, they were going through this sort of reorg process. And I've always been sort of, I think everyone was waiting for Catapult, and I
Mm-hmm.
mean now it's called Symbol. But I was like somewhat in the loop of how that was developing. Um, but I mean, so yeah, when like the reorg started to happen, the ventures team asked me to come across to be head of trading. But I mean, more so the reason why I accepted is, I think about markets through, I mean, particularly tech markets through the lens of like two primary sort of values.
Mm-hmm.
One being the sort of underlying utility value of the technology, whatever it may be, and then the second being sort of the speculative interest that sort of ebbs and flows through that. So I mean, if you imagine sort of, I mean, development if you sort of charted that, it sort of would look more or less constant on a large time frame, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it could be ups and downs depending on sort of breakthroughs in technology lead to more development, releases like new regulation, like we sort of heard yesterday from the OCC about banking, like
Mm-hmm.
these sort of things create an environment where you can develop more within the space. So I think about it through this lens, and I was watching them, and there's this reorg going on, and they're bringing in some really incredibly talented and experienced people. I mean, not like to say that they weren't there already, but I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they're coming in, and then we had this development going on in terms of like the Symbol launch is just around the corner,
Yeah.
and so in my mind, I was thinking about this and going, okay, like you look at the trading volumes. I mean, the trading volumes are picking up now, but the trading volumes on NEM as an asset had been
Mm-hmm.
very quiet. And so, just in that framework of my own thinking, I was like, wow, the upside on this is enormous, because, like, compared to sort of like the more popular like protocols, like ETH, or
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Cardano's been making a lot of noise. NEM's been quite quiet. It's like a sleeping giant. It's been around
Yeah.
from it's like started in 2015. It's never been hacked, and there's all this development going on. So I think sort of the upside on it is what really drew me over. I think that was quite exciting. So
Definitely,
that's
Nick.
how I've ended up here.
That's great. And you touched on the Symbol platform, for enterprise adoption of blockchains. That's going to be big. And I want to jump into that. But before we do that, I want to just get a high level overview, for the people that they've heard of NEM and it's a blockchain, but they don't really know anything else about, the goals of the ecosystem or how it's different and unique. If you could just touch on like a high level, then we'll jump into some of the updates that NEM is having after that.
All right. Well, I mean, a sort of good analog is probably Ethereum, right? Everyone sort of conceptually understands what Ethereum does at a high level. So, I mean, we could probably start there. And then where I think NEM's different is, Ethereum is great for these decentralized applications because, you build the smart contract and then that's it. You just let it run. With NEM, you have a bit more flexibility with that. So, I mean, and with the whole thing with Symbol is, it's going to be like this hybrid chain. I kind of think about ETH would be sort of where you would build a fully decentralized application, but NEM is sort of that bridge between real world business and then blockchain. So I think that's like our gap, that's our niche, if that makes sense to people. So.
Yeah, well, I do know that NEM provides a lot of, on the developer side, SDKs and toolkits to help people build. You provide a lot more support, and especially with this Symbol platform that's now launching with enterprise adoption, maybe we could just jump into that. How specifically are you helping enterprises secure their digital assets and integrate blockchain tech through the Symbol platform that's now launching?
Okay, all right. So, I mean, first off, I come from a finance background, and like to draw this back to Ethereum. You can build these amazing DeFi applications, but when it comes to regulating them, it's hard. Traditional business needs to have something offline, and I think the fact that Symbol can provide this hybrid solution means that we can build sort of, DeFi applications that will fit into a regulated structure. So there's basically more room in my mind for us to sort of, again, just drawing it back to what I said earlier, is like we can sort of bridge that gap. There's a lot of pain points with securitizing assets, like transaction speeds and the cost of transactions. Both of those on the Symbol platform it'll be fast. Obviously, it's hybrid, and it'll be quite cheap. And we're seeing that now. We're having a lot of sort of organizations that help secure assets on blockchains, like looking to get involved with Symbol. So, I mean, that's it from sort of how the business point of view. In terms of the technology, like the NIS1 blockchain's never been hacked since 2015. It was the first to bring in multi-sig, and I think it's, I'm not a tech guy by any stretch of the imagination, but it's building on top of the multi-sig. There's going to be aggregate transactions, and I think sort of there's a tiered multi-sig approach, which would sort of allow organizations to have that same sort of hierarchical control through the organization, but all on blockchain, which I think sort of an innovation that is, will be really appealing to organizations.
Yeah, definitely appealing. And, it's one thing to tokenize financial assets, but I know NEM is really going out there and showing different use cases, from everything from watches and jewelry to other unique items. And, one of the recent partnerships that I read about with NEM and Wave Financial is tokenizing $20 million worth of bourbon whiskey. I wanted to touch on that because it's super interesting. Can you talk about, what does it do to tokenize whiskey, and where's the whiskey? Can we get some?
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, first off, I'll just preface this by saying that this is all the hard work of Dave. He's he runs the NEM Ventures, and he's the head or chief investment officer. He's a very switched on and smart man. And he sort of has been sort of spearheading this whole, some of the tokenization on the Symbol blockchain, on NEM blockchain. So I can speak to it. I'm not the guy who's been running it. But basically, if you want to invest in whiskey, you generally have to buy barrels, or you have to buy the whole production line. And then you hold that barrel for X amount of years, and then you bottle it and you sell it, and that's when you make your upside, right? So what we're doing with Wave is basically, it's the standard tokenization play. We're taking that and we're fractionalizing it and putting it on the blockchain so that, people can get exposure to the whiskey market. And the whiskey market is actually quite lucrative. And I think this is the first sort of exposure that of this kind that anyone's going to be able to make into whiskey. I think it's open to Reg A and Reg D investors in the US. You know, you can check out Wave Financial. It'll be on their website how to get an exposure. I mean, there's a lot more of this stuff sort of coming out of Nem and Symbol. I mean, as we progress. So whiskey today, which is delicious, and then maybe we can get onto something else. I don't know, like gin. I don't know. We'll see.
That's great. And yeah, it's really cool, all these enterprises, you know, with their products, tokenizing them. But part of the bigger picture and moving forward to mainstream adoption is, you know, central banks, financial institutions, and governments adopting potentially this technology as well. And I know that Nem has been working with a central bank, you know, the Central Bank of Lithuania, which seem to be very progressive. And I was reading into this collectible crypto coin, and you partnered with SuperHow to tokenize this coin. Can you talk about working with the central bank, and, you know, is this a step forward in the right direction?
Yeah. So I guess this sort of responds directly to what I was saying earlier about, like, real organizations and business are starting to and will continue to view Nem and Symbol as sort of the go-to blockchain because of how we can bridge that gap between decentralized and real world business. And I think, like, nothing paints that picture more clearly than a central bank wanting to issue currency on the blockchain, right? So what they're doing at the moment is issuing six tokens on our exchange. Oh, sorry, on our blockchain, and you can buy those tokens on an exchange. And then when you get 6 of these tokens, then you get sort of the LB coin. There's only going to be 4,000 of them. The value is 19 euros and 18 cents, which is, I don't know how they came to that, but yeah, I mean, look, the fact that there's a central bank issuing currency on a blockchain is sort of what everyone's been waiting for since when Bitcoin white paper was first written, right? Like, this is actually happening, right? We have governments using blockchain to issue currency, and they're using them to do that. So I think it's extremely exciting.
Yeah, that's very exciting. And that leads me to the next step in that evolution, which is, you know, what are your thoughts on central bank digital currencies, whether it's the US dollar, Chinese yuan, or, you know, the British pound where you are?
Yeah, so I mean, I can see it coming. Eventually, it'll be there. I think China's doing something like this at the moment, right? The US and the UK, I can see that lagging behind a fair bit, to be honest. But I mean, you look at the way the world's turning at the moment. You know, you have this mass unemployment, and I mean, prior to all of that, people were talking about a universal basic income. And I mean, if you think about it, what's the best way to issue that? How do you manage that system? It's probably with blockchain. So I can see something like that probably emerging in this post-COVID world. At what pace? I mean, look, I'm Australian. The Australian government has been sort of cracking down on cash for a long time. I can see an economy like that. I can see, like, someone like Australia adopting it perhaps sooner than the US and the UK. Like, I think, you know, just the way that those economies are set up, you know, I can see that they would be sort of lagging right behind. But I can see there will be a transition period, you know, where there will be some currency, i.e. like a universal basic income, issued on some sort of blockchain. You know, if anyone wants to talk, you know, Symbol's going to be pretty good for that. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Great, Nick. Well, we're running out of time, but I'm curious, what are NEM's goals for outreach right now? Are you looking for more enterprises to partner with, or more central banks potentially, or just more community members? And how can they find out more about NEM?
Look, I mean, we're like a decentralized protocol, right? Everyone can get involved at any time.
Mm-hmm.
So community, if you want to get involved, we've got Telegram channels. We've got Nem Hub, which just launched. I think check out Nem Hub. Anyone involved in crypto should check out Nem Hub right now. It's a good way to earn Nem. You can learn a lot about sort of symbol and the snapshot that's going to take place. And it's a really good way to get involved with our community now. In terms of enterprise, we are starting to get a lot of interest around symbol from sort of existing businesses, and governments. So, more the merrier. Google us if you're interested, I guess. We've got the symbol website, the Nem website. And then just blockchain applications, I don't know how much people have read into what symbol can do, but it's actually quite phenomenal. And I think we're going to be sort of the first blockchain that has nailed atomic swaps. So, and then also, like I said, we have this hybrid functionality. So in my mind, I can see sort of real businesses tapping into DeFi via symbol. And I can see that being sort of a space of great growth. So, blockchain applications, check out, if you're thinking about building a blockchain application, I would take the time to read about what symbol can do, because, if you can run an atomic swap quite easily, it really opens you up to the whole universe of applications out there within crypto at the moment. So, you could really build something quite exciting.
Definitely. Well, thank you. I'll leave those links in the description box below for the viewers. Thanks so much for taking the time to come on the show, Nick. I really do appreciate it. All the best with Nem and Symbol moving forward, and let's follow up in the near future.
No worries, Ashton. You have a good one, eh?